Alright, we're gonna have some fun tonight, boy. Happy 4th to everybody. You're likely going to be seeing this after the 4th of July, maybe on the 4th of July. If you're one of the people that actually cares about the videos, that's when it's going to be posted. Anyways, but I mean, everybody's celebrating, so. And I intend to celebrate too. Megan and I usually celebrate our anniversary on the 4th of July, and we continue that as an ongoing thing because, I mean, it's representative of a key factor in our history, and it's important to us. But I'm here waiting to hear back from her to see if she's going down to the park tomorrow at the same location. I can meet up with her. I have a beautiful young Haitian gal to take as a date, but hopefully that's going to work out. But happy 4th to everybody ultimately. In any case, this video is going to be the beginning of what I'm going to call my principal dynamics series, and it's going to be actual we're going to be dealing with the resource technology of our fundamental understanding. Essentially, we're going to be giving in these videos rational, reasonable, effective examples of how we can kind of pop the hood on life and put some tools to the engine. We're going to see if we can't make a difference here in our overall understanding. The bottom line is always going to be language. It's going to fall back on language. The words that we use are going to be largely representative. The terminology that we use, which we're having a big fucking problem with nowadays, aren't we? Is going to be one of the key factors. The word becomes flesh. It's true. It's not bullshit. Your words are very effective and have a very significant and influential impact on your understanding, on others' understanding of you, and on the way that the world reflects you ultimately. And words are very powerful. Language is going to be one of the primary tools you have in the process of creation. In any case, I'm making this video because my last video, I said some things that were not representative, not effectively or properly representative in my personal opinions, or regards as to the overall opinions of the initiative, and I said some things that were just wrong. I had the wrong information. So any of you that watched that, there's going to be an update for that. That'll be the next video I make after this one, but this one is speaking to something different. Because as I said, we're going to be giving some pretty cool ideas here, suggestions as to how we can play around with the stuff of life. But my last video was cool. I liked it. I really did like it, and I had to erase it to make this one. So I mean, if you're watching this one now, if you're 256 in and you're thinking it's a long one, because it's likely to be long, we got a lot to say here, this is a big deal, but invest your time. Don't be an asshole. I'm gonna toss this video, I'll watch it 5 minutes and then stop because it's too long. Put into it, invest into it, and you'll get something out. I had to erase a video that I loved. I really regret that now. I want that video back, but it's gone forever. And that's going to speak primarily to the issue of decision, which is our ultimate, the conceptual design that we're fucking around with here, the existence concept of decision itself. Now, when you use terminology to identify something, you create a reference point in time-space that effectively maneuvers a construct of energy. I know this is a little out there, but put it in simple layman's terms. You fix something in reality by giving it a name, by calling it something. You fix it in reality. It's fixed in your brain. There's a little piece in your brain that's going to pop up and say, that's what this is. And it's going to remind you. It's going to be a triggering mechanism. There are going to be two neurons firing in your brain, one for the element of what you are seeing, imagining, or representing, and two for the term that you're using to represent it. And those neurons are going to fire together forever. They have a long-term, lasting relationship. They are in love for good, and you made it happen. So an issue was brought to my attention in the last video regarding terminology and regarding my very consideration of myself, even really. I stated that, and we had this video was speaking to sexuality and catalyst event regarding sexuality in the transgender community. There's a situation with the transgender community, which we'll get to. But our transgender rep got back to me, and she said that I said something that kind of disturbed her, upset her, that trivialized the issue of the transgender experience, really, I suppose you could say. And I had no intention to do that. That's not what I intended to do. And it is by no means trivialized. I suppose I should resound it more properly, express it more appropriately, because expression is going to be the key factor here. That's what we're working with. Keep that in mind. Expression. Decision, expression. In any case, I said that the transgender issue was important to me personally because I wish that I had been born with a woman's body. I think I'd be able to do so much more with it. And it wasn't meant to be a trivial thing. I mean, I'm joking around about it, but it's not bullshit. I'm pissed all the time about that. I got this body. It's not particularly attractive. I'm not going to bullshit myself or be modest about it. I have a beautiful set of ass cheeks like you're never going to see better. They're perfect. But, I mean, insofar as, in a feminine regard, my body could be considered pretty fucking attractive, really exceptionally attractive. A little on the skinny side, but fuck me, I'd be a hottie. But for masculine representation, I'm lacking some of the key features like pronounced muscular structure and such. I do have a fuck ton of nasty, wicked scars, but I suppose that's only going to play against my femininity, right? In any case, I do wish that I had been born with a female body. I think it's shitty. I think I got the raw end of the stick, although I am what I am, and decidedly so. Now, it was suggested that if I felt that way, if I felt that I would rather have a female body, then I could be considered a trans woman by technicality. I have to raise an issue to this. I'm going to use that as the example, and it's perfect. Thank you, Andrea, for presenting this to me. Yes, by technicality, you could say that if I feel as though I'd rather be a woman, then I must be a trans woman. However, I'm operatively deciding against expressing myself as a woman or in a feminine manner. I have a great deal of femininity to me. I'm a feminine guy. I have a lot of female aspects and qualities that I very much enjoy having and I make the best use of. But I am lucidly, with the degree of lucidity and awareness, I'm operatively deciding against expressing myself as a female or in a feminine way, because I am lacking the courage and the strength of will it would take to do something like that. I don't have the balls I don't have the balls to be a woman. I can tell you that much. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it or pull it off. I'd be too afraid to, if I wanted to. Which I don't want to, because it would be exceptionally ineffective, and that is not at all to speak against, feminine qualities, say that they are in any way ineffective. It is to say that I would not present well in that way because I'm not attractive in that way, I suppose you could say. And we're speaking of sexuality here, not, spirituality or the essence, the ultimate presence of a person, which is what we're initially talking about, is the question as to whether a person is to be considered innately transgender or not, which in my case, in using myself as the exemplary guinea pig, I would have to say no, because though I do have a lot of feminine aspects, I can just be a feminine guy. I can just be a guy who relates well with females. I've always related well with females. I pick a female doctor every time. It's a little slight joke, but seriously, all my friends, my best friends, my closest friends, I relate well with females. I have very few male friends, and they're hand-picked by serious decision, but they're long-term, partners in our goal here. But I don't think it's appropriate, and it's certainly not effective for us to be rendering terminology upon objects of interest, or rather naming something or categorizing a person, for example, based on the decisions that they haven't made. We should be, or I'm not going to say should, but my opinion and what I'm suggesting here is for us to categorize people, places, things, objects of interest based on the decisions they have made and how they are in fact expressing themselves, because our ultimate goal here is to promote lucidity, to get to the reality of the issue. And the reality of the issue is that you are your actions. You are what you decide to be. And that's why I fall back on the opinion. The opinion I gave was that being transgender is a choice. Being homosexual is a choice. Because though you are born that way, everybody's born with a certain sexuality for sure. And some people have changes in that. Some people are confused. And if you have not decided whether you are a male or a female yet, I suppose that could fall into the confusion category. But if you have decided one way or the other, that's the decision you've made. You are expressing yourself as that, and that's the reality. The reality of the issue is you are your decisions. And so yes, in my opinion, it is a choice as to whether, because if you're born a man who's attracted to men, you can choose to deny that. You can choose to refute that. You can choose to repress that. And as I've said before, that will cause you illnesses that will work to your detriment. That's not a good choice to make. If you choose to express it and you choose to accept it and embrace it, then it's something you should be very, very proud of doing, because you have the strength of will and the courage to do that, although society in some ways stands against it. You know, society's not going to be perfectly accepting of you if you're a gay man or woman, or if you're transgender. They're not going to be perfectly accepting of you, everyone, the people at large, but you have the strength and the courage to stand up in public and to go out. I don't have that. I certainly don't have that. I might do it if I did, but frankly, I feel as though I missed my chance because I'm too old to be I'm too old to be a trans girl now, A. And B, as I said, it would be terribly ineffective. I would not be capable of functioning at my maximum performance level. So it's not an option. It's not an option I would choose to make, and it's not an option I do choose to make. I in fact do effectively, operatively decide to be male and to be a man and to express myself in that way. Mainly, primarily, not just because I was born with it. It's what I have, and I've learned to work well with it for the most part. But because I'm not attracted to men, that's another issue that comes to mind here. I'm not in any way attracted. I find the male body to be, from a sexual perspective, disgusting. So I am attracted to women, and I'm attracted to trans women, obviously, because I have, that story's gone now. I erased it, but I have dated a trans girl, and I fell pretty hard in love with her, and we'll talk about that another time because it raises other issues that regard that video. But in regards to this video, what you express yourself as is who and what you are. And I don't think that we should be categorizing people based on the decisions that they've failed to make. If you don't have the courage to stand up and say, hey, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body, then, and most especially if you do decide to stand up and refute it, deny it, then you get the shit end of the stick, man. You get a reflection based on the options that you choose. I'm sorry. If you feel like you're a woman trapped in a man's body, but you stand up and you say, no, I'm a man, and you deny it for the sake of public interest, that's what you get. That's what you are. You've made that decision. It's all a decision. We choose. Nothing is set in stone. Nothing. You might be born with, genes, a genetic disposition, or you might be born with an emotional value system that places you in a certain sexual orientation, but you are capable of denying that, you are capable of refuting it, and yes, you are even capable of altering it. It's not something that many people have ever done or could do. It's very difficult, and it's seemingly impossible for most. We've spoken to this in the other video that's now gone, but yes, it's possible to directly operatively manipulate emotional values and to alter the way that you feel about things. It's not something I would ever suggest doing by any means, because it's fucking terribly damaging. That's like tearing out wires in your system. That's a really bad move, but it can be done. It's an option you have. Everybody has these decisions, and you should be damn proud of the decisions you make. The reason that we often debate about this, where the debate standing as to whether a person is innately transgender or not, or innately, one way or the other, a certain sexual orientation, just, by definition standard, born that way, then uh, that debate rises largely because we are afraid to accept the responsibility for our choices. We don't want to be responsible for our choices because we've been taught to refute that. We've been taught to think that, and as I've spoken, there are spheres of influence in play that we're dealing with, these catalyst events, the chakras of the human psychology, that are influencing the way that you think and feel, regardless of whether you're even aware of it, let alone believe in it. You've been taught to think that if you're in a man's body and you decide that you're a female, that there's something wrong with that. You've been taught to feel ashamed of that. And so you are afraid to accept the responsibility for making that decision. And so you refute it being a choice in order to make it easier for you to make that transition. And that's okay. I'm not going to speak out against that, but I'm saying that that's what's really happening. That is, in fact, what's really happening. It's not something you can deny. There are values in your system that are going to stand against, in opposition to, that are going to challenge your decision to make that transition. And so in order to make the transition more easily acceptable for yourself, you deny that it's your choice to make. But it is. It's always your choice to make. And yes, you are born with a certain sexual orientation, for sure, everybody is. But you make the decision as to whether you transition. So in regards to categorizing a person as innately transgender or not, I would have to say, in the case of myself, as I'm operatively deciding to express myself, even though I do have a lot of feminine qualities, I feel very feminine about myself, I feel better in that way. I'm a more feminine person than I am masculine, for sure. I mean, I have masculine qualities, but only the necessary ones, and I make the most effective use of them, so they kind of pop out haphazardly, but they're not the more prominent factors of me. I am, in fact, a very feminine person. But I'm choosing to represent myself as a male, just with feminine qualities. And so in my case, no, that's not the answer. That is not, that's what the operative or the conclusion to my understanding that I would have to come to, while the debate would be left open as to whether a person is, innately transgender or not. That debate remains. However, it remains busted. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to take this opportunity to kind of clip in and make some adjustments to the hyperbolic terminologies we have in play. Transgender, the literal word we're using, is meaning to express that a person has made a transition or transformation. You are not born transformed. You make that transition. And so, no, you are not innately transgender. You're not a trans woman. You're not born a trans woman in a man's body. You're just a woman. If you are a female personality in a man's body, you're just a woman. You're not trans anything. You haven't yet decided to make any transition. The transition part, transgender part, where you actually operatively decide to go through, the process of altering your genetic structure via hormone therapies or altering your body, your organic structure via surgical procedures. That's a decision that you have to make. It's a very difficult decision. And it takes a serious fucking investment. And if you're willing to do that and it makes you feel better about who you are, makes you feel more you, then that's something you need to accept as your responsibility and be exceptionally fucking proud of. Fucking A. Kudos to you. Good fucking job, man. Power to you, man or woman. I call everyone man, so. But, guys, good job. But seriously, that's your responsibility, and that responsibility belongs to you, man. You need to own it. Don't let society steal your responsibility from you. Everything is your decision, and you have to make it with a smile on your face and pride in your heart. You have to march on saying, this is what I've decided to be, and take your power back. The very concepts that we have in play, our entire existence concept as it stands, is based on the understanding that we are not in control. It's designed to steal our options, our choices, our operative decision from us. That power of decision is your everything. When you use language as a determiner, as a tool for your creation, that's a tool made out of decision. Everything you have is decision. The power of heaven, Kamwiausi, is it Siari, Kamwiausi et Siari, is that is the ultimate tool. That's everything. Decision. Definition is made of decision. It's not the other way around. Decision is not made by definition. You do not define something and then decide it, what its definition is. You decide what to define it as, and it becomes that. The time is moving in reverse. We're viewing everything backwards. We are perceiving everything inverted. So, I mean, that's my opinion. That's how I'm going to have to stand on it. It's not the formal entire representative of the entirety of the initiative, but that's my opinion on the matter, that it is a decision. Everything is a choice. You have that power. You need to own that power, accept it, and use it. Own your responsibility. And insofar as the terminology is used for transgender, transgender means to have made the operative decision to go through that transition. If I walked around and I presented myself in a feminine way and acted, in a feminine way and maybe wore, female clothing and whatnot, that could be considered making that transition. Then I would be a transgender woman. But as it stands, I am decidedly, operatively a man with a great deal of feminine qualities and just a guy that is feminine. It's not the terminology that we've been using is entirely hyperbolic, and it furthers our confusion. It causes for us to be confused in our situation and to be at odds with each other. It's designed to do that. It's designed to divide us, to put us at odds with each other, to make us confused and misunderstood, and to just have trouble in general communicating with each other, making a serious connection. And especially with the transgender community now, and especially with the sexuality community in general, like the primary sexuality community, with all this pansexual and all that stuff. I mean, what does that mean? If you're pansexual, that you like anybody, it's like you say, well, I'd sleep with anybody. That's the same as bisexual or not I suppose you could say trisexual if you consider transgender to be a third sort of a sexuality, which personally I do. I think, in my personal opinion, is that the transgender community is an evolution of our species. I think that they are the union, the fusion. And the fact of the matter is that when people walk around confused, disoriented, not knowing their sexuality, really not knowing which way they slide, that is a fractured identity. That is a fractured personality disorder, where sometimes I would have very feminine qualities that would pop out when we spoke to the idea of gender euphoria and gender dysphoria, which I still don't completely understand, but it's going to be something we're going to be working with in the future. Our trans rep is going to educate us on this, but speaking to the concept of gender euphoria, where you feel real good presenting as a female in a man's body, if you lean that way, if that's who you are, then, I've had that, I've experienced that before, and that would be considered a fractured personality disorder, because I have alternate identities, I have alter egos, so to speak. Now, I've come to a point where I have decided to be who I am, and I've fused these entities into one. There is no longer any jumping around. There's no longer, sometimes I present as feminine and I feel good about it. I present as what the fuck I am, ultimately, all together, Siari, all as one, and I enjoy it all the time. Every second, I have euphoria every day just for being who I am, and it's not male or female, and it's kind of both, actually. It is kind of both. But it's certainly not either. If you're falling into either category, or you're undecided as to which category you fall into, that is in fact a fractured personality disorder. That's something you need to deal with, because that's at the heart, that's at the root of everything that we are dealing with. Fractured identity. The entire world is a fractured identity. isolate personalities, each representing a factor of the whole. We are all holographic representations of the initial single identity, the one conglomerate structure, the cosmological being that we would call God, that we'd use the term God for, which a lot of people misuse the term God, and they call it, this fucking dude from the Bible who's murdering people all over the place, this guy with a white beard sitting on the clouds, or, God is Krishna or some fucking elephant guy or whatever. Bullshit. God is just us. God is what we are. It's all of us as one. It's Siari. It is all as one. It's Kamwi Siari Atausi. Shifting glyphs. And each one of us, ultimately, we are a value system made up of fractured pieces of this single identity. Our values are each fractured identities. They're pieces of identity. Each value is a representative factor of who and what we are. It represents, it defines a piece of ourselves. It is a piece of our identity. And the value systems that make up our personalities, that becomes one key fit. It becomes one word. It is one word in the story that God is telling of life. The story of life. The shifting glyphs is the word, the speech, the voice of God telling the story of life. And we are each a word in that story. We could each be a sentence. We could each be a paragraph. Depending on how you express yourself. If you express yourself, and it could be to just one person, even if it's just to one person that you express yourself fully, and you express the entirety of your identity, and you're proud, and in that moment you own the responsibility of that decision. That could make the difference for everything. That's what we want. That's what we want to see from our students, from our initiates. That's what we want to see from our people and from the world. Is people expressing themselves innately, who and what they really are. And these hyperbolic terminologies that we've been using really put that at odds. It makes it exceptionally difficult for people to identify themselves, let alone express that identity, that express that signature identification. If they can't even reach a definition as to who and what they are, we can't even reach an acceptable, reasonable definition of ourselves. How can we be expected to represent it? So I suppose let that stand as not, it's implicative, and as I've said before, experience is made of implications, and each value has implications attached to it that we place on it. And so each person, by your expression, you imply something. By my expression, if I were to be, as our rep said, if I were to be a trans woman, but kind of hiding that would be implicative. I would be implying that there's something wrong with me feeling that way, but that's not the case. So I can't identify myself as that, because that's not the representation I want to have. I don't want to decide to represent the implication that there's something wrong with the way I feel and it needs to be hidden. It's not the case. The way I feel is the way I feel. And yes, I feel as though if I had a female body, that if I were an attractive young lady, we would have made a lot more progress. We would have won this thing by now. I'd have torn this whole fucking thing up. I'd have made some serious progress if I were a sexually attractive young lady, but it's not the case. I am what I am, and I have decided to be that. I could very well put forth the effort to make that transition and become a transgender person, but honestly, why? It would only further the confusion. It would only further the division ratio. I don't have to be a transgender person. I can just be who I am. Male or female, I'm going to represent myself as both and neither. But certainly not either. It's not going to be one or the other, because I have qualities of both, and so does everybody else. And so it would be extremely beneficial, and it would be exceptionally effective in recreating our consideration of each other, period, to use that terminology to represent as just Sexuality is not a primary issue that needs to be regarded in so far as personality is concerned. You don't have to be male or female. You have qualities from both. Everybody does. That's something that you actually can't really decide on. You're born with masculine and feminine qualities. No matter what, you have a piece of everything in you. You're a holographic representation of the all, and you have the potentiality through your decision to become anything, to become whatever you choose to. That's the choice you have, and that is the responsibility you have, because you live with the consequences of making those decisions. Going through the process of transforming your gender, biologically speaking, or at least appearance-wise. But yes, biologically speaking, through hormone therapy and such, and psychologically speaking, because there's testing that needs to be done. If you're even to be considered a candidate for the hormone therapy, you have to go through a certain degree of testing as to, whether you can live with that personality, whether you can manage as that personality without having like a psychological break. And yes, that is a decision you have to make. That's a process you have to go through to decide who and what you're going to be. And you own that responsibility, man. That belongs to you. You have the control to decide who and what you want to be. And just decide it and be proud of it. Accept that. And take back your power, I guess, ultimately. But with regard to the terminology, you consider that a suggestion, hanging, that we can kind of sneak in there and we can repair this broken value by making that assessing the situation in that regard, that we all have masculine and feminine qualities, and that yes, you can decide to be one or the other. You can decide who and what you want to express yourself as, and no, a person is not innately trans anything because they are not born having been transformed from one to another. So it's not the correct terminology to be using, and it would be much more effective, simpler, easier, faster, and just better overall to clip that terminology and just say, if you feel like you're a woman, you're a woman. If you feel like you're a man, you're a man, and you don't have to be either, really. And I suppose that could be the pansexual aspect, but really it's just sexual. We do not require these hyperbolic terminologies. They are putting us in jeopardy. They're fucking up the whole deal. They're making everything more difficult. And that's a situation that's been imposed upon us. It's a trick. It's just a social trick to distract us, to disturb us, to confuse us. It's not necessary. And here's the key. Here's the ultimate trick to all of this. Because you might say, how does this fall into the category of being, causality? How does this is just a debate issue or a proclamation. Well, here's the key. Make use of it. Apply it. All you have to do is take the suggestion I've given you and apply it to your life. Make use of it. When you look at people, don't even consider, are they a trans man or a trans woman or whatnot. Just maybe ask them, what's your gender? Hey, I've got a man's body, but I feel like I'm a woman. Then you're a woman. Period. There's no need to use any further terminologies. You are what you are, and you are what you decide to be. So if a person expresses himself as a woman in a man's body, then they're a woman. If a person expresses themselves as a fucking panda bear, then sure, we can go that far. But again, bestiality is out of the question. I don't like that idea. I think it's really stupid for people to be making assessments like that. I'm going to identify as an animal in a man's body. I mean, why? Just come on. You're making it harder. You're making it worse. This is a key element of the psychological disorder that humanity suffers from. And it is a crisis scenario. So please, people, stop fucking around. Just wake up. Get with the program. And speaking specifically to our trans rep, Andrea, I'm not meaning to down talk you. I'm sorry if it came across like that. I'm not telling you snap to and wake up. I'm just saying for society in general, you have given me excellent values to work with. You've done a hell of a lot of good for us already, and I can't wait to see what you're gonna do in the future, lady. You're banging. You kick a lot of fucking ass, and I'm very happy for you, and I'm proud of you for being who you are. I'm proud of you for being who you are. I'm proud to know you. I'm proud that we're doing this together. And we are doing this together. We're going to change the whole fucking world together. Watch. This ain't no bullshit. I ain't fucking around, B. So, or G, I suppose in this regard. Thank you for this time, 35 minutes. That's going to begin. That's an example of how we can fine-tune our considerations, how we can actually put our hands on the wheel of life and take operative control. Decide how we regard things, deal with our terminology, deal with our causality at its root, and just actually do it. Actually apply it to the way you think and feel. From here on out, what a person expresses is who they are. What you decide is who you are. You choose from this point forward. Choose. In every opportunity you get, in the face of every challenge, choose. And no matter what you choose to be excellent at it. I love you guys. Kilo Salai, Teriyune Siari, Namaste.